Part 59. The soul travels through the 18th line, the female agent is killing crazy in the entertainment. Author, Bulletin Yehoyun Li. Chapter 582. John Killen's voice was neither high nor low, but it had the same shocking effect as a bomb. The Duke of Leinster opened his mouth wide. Yuri Kasai also put away his hypocritical smile and said coldly, "Mr. Fang, this is a very serious accusation." The Duke of Leinster nodded and said, "Yes, we have no grudges against Golden Island." John Killen turned his head and looked directly into the blue eyes of the Duke of Leinster with his black eyes. His eyes said, "You made a very stupid mistake." The Duke of Leinster closed his mouth subconsciously. John Killen then continued, "In order to find your children, you must have done a detailed investigation of Golden Island." Although it was a question, John Killen's tone was affirmative. The two pondered and did not speak. John Killen said, "Then you too should know that Golden Island has been in a very serious financial crisis in recent years. Golden Island, as the name suggests, is an island that costs a lot of gold to maintain. The waiters, chefs, security guards, and other employees hired by Golden Island, as well as the mercenaries and the weapons they need, the maintenance costs of various electrical equipment on the island, the maintenance and upkeep of the interior of the room. A house built in the air on the sea is very easy to be soaked by seawater and damaged by storms at sea. The piranhas kept in the power grid need to be fed regularly, which is a huge expense, and there are many motorboats on the island that need to burn oil. In addition, the auctions and entertainment activities held on Golden Island are all illegal. In order to survive, they have to cling to the Thais, pay tribute to the Thai country, and provide high bribes to several neighboring countries, asking these countries to pretend to be unaware of the inhumane behavior of Golden Island. The expressions of Yuri Kasai and the Duke of Leinster became solemn. John Killen saw from their expressions that the seeds of doubt had been sown. Next, he would fertilize and irrigate. Let the seeds thrive. Yuri Kasai pondered for a long time before speaking, "Then they don't have to attack us, right?" Yuri Kasai is one of the shareholders of Golden Island. He naturally knew the current debt situation of Golden Island. He wanted to withdraw his investment, but now was definitely not a good time to do so. The administrator of Golden Island said that they had found a good way to help Golden Island survive this financial crisis, and asked the Kasai family to believe them. Moreover, the financial crisis of Golden Island could be turned around, and it all depended on the Kasai family. John Killen looked at Kasai Yuri calmly and said, "Could it be that all the precious collections you sent to the island for auction have been returned to their original owners?" Kasai Yuri's face suddenly became very scary. He looked at John Killen gloomily. How much does this young man know? Their family prepared 5 kinds of collections for the Golden Island auction this time, and the most precious one was the precious human experiment data of the X-31 unit. The opportunity for turnaround that Golden Island mentioned was a piece of experimental data from the Kasai family. A mysterious buyer took out a very amazing price and specifically asked to buy the experimental data of the Kasai family. No one would refuse the price offered by the buyer. As the organizer of the auction, Huang Jindao will take a part of the commission. Part of the commission will go into the pockets of the Kasai family. With the auction proceeds and commission dividends, the Kasai family can continue to prosper for a century. Kasai Yuri is a shrewd businessman. He especially hates losing money. So, he discussed with his father, Kasai Saho, and decided that they would provide the data for auction. Anyway, their family has data backup. But to be on the safe side, they specially sent Kasai Yukari to participate in this auction to ensure the security of the data. Unexpectedly, my daughter disappeared. Of the 5 collections provided by the Kasai family, the other 4 were safe and sound, only the experimental data report was missing. Kasai Yuri asked Huang Jindao to give an explanation and hand over his daughter and the experimental data report. Huang Jindao's reply was that they had no clue about the whereabouts of Kasai Yukari and the experimental report. However, Huang Jindao provided an important piece of information. Yukari Kasai was very close to a mysterious handsome man with black hair. Her disappearance might be related to this man. Later, Yuri Kasai learned that this man with black hair and yellow skin was Fang Wenjian, who had recently joined the Heji Society. So he went to the door to ask for punishment. Yuri Kasai was very angry at this moment. Was he really played by Huang Jindao? This inference is indeed more reasonable. But is this young Fang Wenjian just a victim? What role does he play in it? The soul travels through the 18th line. The female agent is killing crazy in the entertainment. Author, Bulletin Yehoyun Li. Chapter 583. While Yuri Kasai's mind was running rapidly, the Duke of Leinster did not increase his suspicion. Even if Golden Island falls into a debt crisis, what does it have to do with him? Although he provided the auction items, Golden Island has returned the collection as soon as possible. The Duke of Leinster did not carefully examine the size of the collection. Because all his energy was focused on finding the badge and traces of his son. The Duke said angrily, "Whether Golden Island returns my collection or whether it is in debt has nothing to do with me." John Killen turned to look at the Duke of Leinster. He asked, "Your Excellency, where do most of the conflicts and grievances in the world originate from?" The Duke of Leinster hesitated for a moment and then said, "Is it, interest?" John Killen showed an affirmative smile. "Your Excellency is smart. It's just the benefits. You have the wealth and status that Golden Island covets, as well as important badges. They covet your badges. I also hope that you can take the initiative to contribute your money and hands to them." The Duke of Leinster yelled, "I would be crazy to give money to them unless something unfortunate happened to you and you asked them for help. You must have spent a lot of pounds to get the badge and the news about your son, right? But not. After spending millions of pounds, he got Fang Wenjian's information." John Killen said, "You don't know. I accidentally learned some inside stories, and Golden Island wanted to get rid of me. But due to my identity, they couldn't do anything to me, so they had to find someone to get rid of me for them." The Duke of Leinster stopped speaking, but pursed his lips tightly. Try to imagine if what Fang Wenjian said was true. Then Golden Island is the bastard who really took away the badge and attacked his son. And he, the Duke of Leinster, not only gave money to his enemies, but also helped them get rid of their threats. From now on, he might as well be called the first foolish duke in England. Yes, think about it, what a timid boy Jim is. Jim is very aware of the importance of the badge to the Leinster family. He must be very careful to take care of it. How could he lose the badge? At this time, John Killen continued, "In addition, Your Majesty the Duke, I have a guess here. It may not be correct, but you can listen to it. I believe that you are wise and can make a correct judgment." The Duke of Leinster put away his previous arrogance and asked in a humble tone, "Please tell me." John Killen spoke clearly and said in a very standard British accent, "Initially, Golden Island did not intend to attack your son. I think maybe they discovered the badge held by your son and wanted to take it for themselves, and maybe it's because your son accidentally saw something he shouldn't have seen and heard something he shouldn't have heard." The Duke of Leinster laughed loudly. How could he happen upon something so coincidentally? "Mr. Kasai, don't you think so?" He turned to look at Kasai Yuri, trying to get a positive answer from him. Unexpectedly, Kasai Yuri did not respond to him. Kasai's face was ashen, his eyelids drooped, he didn't know what he was thinking. The Duke of Leinster was horrified. Could it be that Jim had really stumbled upon the ulterior secret of Golden Island? Could it be that this is why Kasai's daughter is as missing as Jim? John Killen was very satisfied with the changes in the two of them. His voice became ethereal. You two were not at the scene at the time. Therefore, you two were unaware of many situations. But, please think carefully, this is the Golden Island. The Golden Island has the strongest mercenary army, the world's top weapons, and the strongest defense line, who dares to run wild on the Golden Island? I'm afraid I don't even dare to think about it, right? However, in fact, they not only thought this way, but also did it. The thugs defeated the armed defense of Golden Island. What is ridiculous is that Golden Island let all the thugs go. There was not even a single death or injury among the thugs. In this case, the prisoners imprisoned on Golden Island just happened to escape collectively. A few prisoners were indeed shot dead at that time, but most of the prisoners successfully escaped from the Golden Island and their whereabouts are still unknown. The prisoners ran to the seaside, and someone secretly helped kill the mercenaries who were tracking them. There were also mercenaries riding motorboats over the sea. This motorboat became an important tool for the prisoners to escape. The piranha that intercepted the prisoner ran into the sea a step earlier. Because there was a bomb somewhere that just blew a big hole in the submarine power grid that intercepted the piranha. Neither of them spoke. This is definitely a conspiracy carefully planned by Golden Island. John Killen continued, then, they transferred all the guests and auction items and sent them to Thetis yacht. They sent away most of the distinguished and important guests, killed the ignorant guests with poison gas, and took the deceased's belongings as their own. During this period, your son and your daughter were missing. They can't explain it? So, they pushed me out. Kasayuri's hands shrunk into the sleeves of his kimono, clenched and unclenched, and then clenched again. He raised his head and looked at John Killen. So, is your badge the one lost by the Duke of Leinster? At this time, the Duke of Leinster had already concluded that Golden Island had tricked him. But one thing comes back to another. We will settle the account of Golden Island later. Yes, Mr. Fang, if you want us to know that you are innocent, you just need to show us your badge. John Killen's face completely darkened. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The soul travels through the 18th line, the female agent is killing crazy in the entertainment. Author, Buletin Yehoyun Li. Chapter 584. Kasayuri put his hands in the sleeves of his kimono, stared at John Killen, and said slowly, "What? Mr. Fang, you have told us so much, but you don't dare to show us your badge. You are just a sweet-talking thief." The Duke of Leinster simply pointed at John Killen's nose and scolded, "Stop trying to deceive us with your words. We are not stupid at all." John Killen looked at Yuri Kasai and then the Duke of Leinster with great disappointment. "You will regret your rudeness." After saying that, he put his hand into the lining of his vest and pulled out something very precious. Sapphires and brown stones are perfectly combined to form realistic eyes, surrounded by a circle of exquisitely crafted metal that resembles the radiance of the sun. It is the Masonic emblem. The Duke of Leinster was delighted and immediately reached out to grab the badge. John Killen's hand holding the badge quickly shrank back and said angrily, "What? Duke of Leinster, you lost your badge and you want to snatch it from me?" "No. I just want to see it more clearly." The Duke of Leinster knew that he was a little embarrassed, so he said apologetically and sincerely, "I won't do anything again." John Killen hesitated for a while, then slowly raised the badge. Finally it stopped under the Duke of Leinster's astonishingly large nose, but his muscles were tense to prevent him from protecting the badge if the Duke of Leinster made another move. The Duke of Leinster's eyes widened and he looked at the badge close at hand, trying to find familiar traces on the badge. "You know, in this world, the most cherished treasure of the Duke of Leinster is the Freemason badge. He inherited his badge from his father. The Duke of Leinster loved his badge so much that he took it out of the safe from time to time and wiped it carefully with a silk scarf. It had been wiped so many times that the edges of the badge had some blurry marks left by the silk scarf. Since he spent a lot of time playing with and appreciating the badges, he was familiar with every scratch, size, and shape of the badges. Even if he didn't look at the code behind it, he wouldn't admit it was wrong. When he saw the badge in front of his nose clearly, the fire of hope burning in his heart was instantly doused by cold water. This badge was not lost by him. Where was his treasure, his badge, lost? Yuri Kasai on the side looked back and forth at the changes in the expressions of the Duke of Leinster and John Killen. He clearly saw that after the Duke of Leinster saw the badge clearly, the excitement and hope on his face were replaced by a look of defeat and frustration. Kasai Yuri was very doubtful about the Duke of Leinster's IQ. "I haven't read the code yet, how can I be sure it's not his?" So Yuri Kasai asked John Killen on behalf of the Duke of Leinster, "Please turn the tables and let us see the code behind it." John Killen didn't hesitate at all. He simply turned the badge over. But his fingers skillfully blocked the initial letters of the code and the numbers representing the year behind them. John Killen didn't wait for Kasai to ask questions and took the initiative to explain, "This is very important privacy. I think looking at the date should be enough, right?" Kasai nodded. The Duke of Leinster reluctantly leaned over and took a look. John Killen points his finger, -06-04. Indeed it is not his badge. The code on the back of his badge reads, I-1981-03-06. The father of the Duke of Leinster received this badge in Italy on March 6, 1981. "How about it, Your Majesty Duke, have my suspicions been cleared?" John Killen did not take back the badge, but still held it up in front of the Duke. The Duke of Leinster was in no mood to look at the badge again. At this moment, he was like a half-melted popsicle, sitting crookedly on the stool, and said with a desperate calmness, "I'm sorry, Mr. Fang. This is a major misunderstanding, the badge you hold is indeed not the badge I lost." John Killen then put the badge away and put it away. 2. I'm not a kind person. I just don't want to be regarded as an enemy for no reason. John Killen put on the badge and arranged the suit and vest. "Although we are not friends, at this moment, we have common enemies, so hopefully we can be each other's friends for a while." The Duke of Leinster waved his hand weakly. "Friend or enemy, does it make any difference? No matter what, his treasures have been lost. I'm afraid I'll never see you again." John Killen actually didn't care about the Duke of Leinster's opinion. He stared into Kasai Yuri's eyes, waiting for his answer. Suddenly, Yuri Kasai stood up from his seat, and bowed at a right angle to John Killen quickly, maintaining this posture, and said loudly, "Mr. Fang, I have offended you so much just now, I hope you don't care about it." John Killen hurriedly stood up, held Kasai's shoulders, and asked him to stand up straight. "Mr. Kasai, you are not wrong. If it were me, I would have lost my mind a long time ago. But I admire you very much. You have remained a warrior of the Neon Kingdom. The magnanimity. The soul travels through the 18th line, the female agent is killing crazy in the entertainment." Author, Bulletin Yehoyun Li. Chapter 585. John Killen and Yuri Kasai hugged each other friendly and patted each other on the back. What was originally a meeting to question the enemy has now turned into a relaxed gathering among friends. Yuri Kasai sat down and extended his hand elegantly to say, "Mr. Fang, please allow me to make you another cup of tea." "Thank you." John Killen did not refuse. The Duke of Leinster finally came to his senses and accepted the reality. Now, he had many things to think about, and it was not the time to wallow in pain. For example, which illegitimate son should be brought back to the Duke's palace and given the status of a legitimate successor? For example, after hearing about it, will other illegitimate children also clamor for fame and ask to live in the Duke's palace? For example, will the women who gave birth to illegitimate children ask for anything from themselves? How much should be given? For example, after taking back the illegitimate child, the Duchess and her family will definitely be furious and try their best to stop it from happening. Therefore, he must transfer assets in advance and find out what is wrong with his wife's family. This will prevent them from causing trouble, and the illegitimate child can enter the house smoothly. For example, he should consider giving up the fantasy of looking for a badge and pragmatically asking old members to recommend him to rejoin. Although you can only climb from low level to high level. But it doesn't matter. The Duke of Leinster believes that with the reputation and status of the Leinster family, it won't take long for him to return to level 30. In front of me, there are two ready-made candidates. The Duke of Leinster looked at the sanctimonious Yuri Kasai and thought, this villain from the Neon Country is used to acting. Although he always shows a very enthusiastic attitude, in fact he is the most selfish and cold-blooded in his heart. Not good, not good. And Fang Wenji and the Duke of Leinster looked at his face. This young and handsome Oriental man is rich and smart. He has just entered the United Freemasonry and needs to win over people and consolidate his position. There are many benefits to developing new members and existing members. Thinking of this, the Duke of Leinster put away his depressed face and said enthusiastically to John Killen, Mr. Fang, I heard that you fell in love with a little star at the banquet yesterday. John Killen smiled slightly, Your Excellency, the Duke is so well informed. The Duke of Leinster pretended not to hear the faint sarcasm in his words and continued, I have a set of sapphire jewelry in my house that once belonged to my great-grandmother. Later, I sent a butler to deliver it to your house. According to Hedgie, according to the meeting's rules, you are going back to your residence tonight, right? The Duke of Leinster is not useless. In just 2 sentences, he expressed his desire for mutual benefit with John Killen and his hope to establish a long-term friendly and cooperative relationship with John Killen. On the one hand, he expressed his goodwill to John Killen, and on the other hand, he secretly stated that although he was not in the Union Society now, he could still have first-hand information about the Union, and he was very familiar with the old rules of the Union. Palm. This is exactly what John Killen meant. John Killen successfully joined the club, and CK Batty's mission was successfully completed. He was going back to his home, doing his work, and would not stay with John Killen. The good thing is that John Killen has a certain amount of free space, but the bad thing is, how can he learn more about the United Aid Society? The Duke of Leinster presented his opportunity. Moreover, the Duke of Leinster still wanted something from John Killen, and he must have known everything about John Killen's problems. Everything was as Cheng Ling expected. So, John Killen said with a smile, then I would like to thank the Duke on behalf of my female companion for your expense. From now on, there will be many things for which I have to ask you for advice. No, I want to ask you a question, the Duke of Leinster said happily. John Killen did not refuse. This pleased Leinster. A set of jewelry only costs tens of thousands of pounds, but receiving a gift is like a nod to the possibility of further interactions in the future. Maybe he also knows the inside story about his son's disappearance and the loss of his badge. The two laughed happily. Yuri Kasai on the side turned a deaf ear to the conversation between the two and concentrated on making matcha. Soon, a cup of light green matcha was finished. Mr. Fang, please wait. Please have some tea. John Killen took the small teacup, took a sip first, letting the earthy smell of matcha spread in his mouth, and said with a smile, the taste is very authentic. After speaking, he drank the tea in one gulp. Yuri Kasai is very proud of being praised. He really likes Fang Wenjian a little bit. This young man is brave and resourceful, knows etiquette, and knows how to advance and retreat. No wonder he is an illegitimate son, but he can swallow up the huge assets of the Fang family and make them prosperous. Yuri Kasai smiled and said, speaking of Mr. Fang's affair, did the Duke and I come at the wrong time and disturb your sweet time? John Killen said hi, put down the empty cup, and said, she has gone out to do shopping a long time ago. I really don't understand how these women are so crazy about shopping. If you want to look good, women still look good naked. The conversation shifted to men's favorite areas. The atmosphere instantly became relaxed. The Duke of Leinster winked, hey, good-looking women are men's accessories, that's understandable. By the way, Mr. Fang, do you have any other favorite types? I have a lot of good stuff here. 6 years old I can find beauties of any race, above and below 80 years old. You can ask Kasai, how is the quality of the beauties I find? Kasai Yuri felt that it was a bit vulgar, and he coughed lightly with his hands covering his mouth, indicating his agreement. John Killen did not agree, nor did he say no. I just got this little wildcat, I have to sharpen her sharp claws, and when I get tired of playing with her, I will ask the Duke for help. There is one thing that John Killen did not lie about, his little wildcat was indeed shopping in a luxury store at this moment. The soul travels through the 18th line, the female agent is killing crazy in the entertainment. Author, Bulletin Yehoyun Li. Chapter 586. At the same time in Mount Billyhua, California, USA. Rodeo Drive, the world's most famous luxury goods center. This north-south street is 3 kilometers long, with a road in the middle and the world's most famous luxury stores on both sides. The pleasant and bright sunshine. Through the palm trees on both sides of the road, the golden soft light sprinkled on the pedestrians in groups of 3 or 2. It also sprinkled on Chengling, who was dressed exquisitely. Chengling raised her hand and pushed the sunglasses on her face. Most of her palm-sized face was covered by sunglasses. She wore a khaki cashmere coat with a stand-up collar, black curly hair, a classic Hermes crocodile leather bag on her shoulders, and high-heeled shoes with thin heels. Behind her, a servant in white club clothes followed closely. The servant's left and right hands each carried several newly bought luxury bags. The two walked to the corner of the street and stopped. The light turned red. At this time, a very tempting aroma came from across the street. There was a brand new French restaurant there, Beaverbrook Restaurant. Chengling licked her lips, turned to the attendant standing half a step behind her and said, "Mark, I'm a little hungry. I want to go to the restaurant in front for dinner. I have to buy a lot of things later, and you can't carry them. So, while I'm eating, you can help me send the things to the car, and then wait for me at the restaurant. The attendant is not qualified to eat with the guests." "Okay, Miss Chang," Mark replied respectfully. Mark did not turn around and leave immediately, but escorted Chengling across the road, helped Chengling open the door of the restaurant, and waited for Chengling to enter the restaurant before saying goodbye and turning away. Chengling estimated in her mind. The car was parked in a parking lot about 2 kilometers away from here. According to Mark's pace and the increased number of pedestrians on the sidewalk, it would take at least 35 minutes for him to go back and forth. She had to hurry up. The waiter came up to her warmly, "Dear madam, hello, how can I help you? I want to eat." "How many people are there?" "One," Chengling said. "Can I choose any seat?" "Any recommendations?" "Yes, as long as there are no guests, you can use it." "I suggest you sit by the window here, the view is great. There are 5 tables by the window in the restaurant. 3 of them are bathed in the sun." Chengling looked at the 3 tables and said to herself, "Too sunny." After that, she turned her head to the other side, by the window, not sunny and private. An old man with grey hair was sitting at a table enjoying coffee. Chengling pointed to the empty table behind the man. "I'll sit there." "Okay, please follow me, be careful of the slippery floor." The waiter led Chengling to the empty table and brought Chengling a menu. "I'll look at the menu for a while, and come over after I've selected the dishes," Chengling said. "Okay, ma'am." The waiter returned to the front desk. Chengling turned his back to the grey-haired man, flipping through the menu while speaking in ventriloquy. "Sparrow, long time no see." The grey-haired man was Nolan in disguise. He had a tightly fitted artificial leather mask on his face, and he looked calm, but his pupils shrank violently the moment he heard these words. Something exploded in his head. It exploded into pieces of gorgeous fragments. Those bizarre fragments were reassembled into a possible picture, but were shattered again, and endless fragments spun rapidly in his brain. The captain's body fragments that were broken into pieces and barely pieced together. The DNA test report with a matching degree of up to 99.99%. At the funeral, the tears of the team members, the requiem of the pastor, and the people wearing black clothes to mourn. Jichenjio said that she found a woman who was related to the captain, and her name was also Chengling. She gave a lot of her reasons. They were all far-fetched. That woman did not have sea phobia. The woman's handwriting had nothing to do with the captain's. The woman's growth trajectory was clear and traceable, and there was no overlap with the captain. But why did she know the contact information of the H Rangers? How did she know her code name? Who was she? Nolan was sweating. He felt like he was stuffed into a narrow box, tightly squeezed by six sides, unable to move, breathe, or even think. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The soul travels through the 18th line, the female agent is killing crazy in the entertainment. Author, Buletin Yehoyun Li. Chapter 587. Ever since he received the mysterious text message in the middle of the night, Nolan has been guessing the identity of the other party. The content of the text message is: Dear Mr. Sparrow, we are honored to inform you that you have been selected as the lucky customer of our Beaverbrook restaurant on Rodeo Drive, and we will serve you an exquisite meal. Please come to us at X hour, X day, X month, 2023, at the Beaverbrook restaurant, number 52 Rodeo Drive. Table number 1 has been reserved for you, the window seat on the southernmost side of the restaurant. Contact person, H. Man. Please confirm and reply Y, yes, or N, no, so that we can arrange the reception. Sincerely yours sincerely. Nolan, who was sleeping at the time, squinted his eyes to see the text message clearly in the dark, and sat up suddenly. This is the emergency contact information for the H Rangers. When a team member is in an extremely dangerous situation and is at risk of exposure, such a response message can be sent to the leader of the H Rangers. The captain or the team member designated by the captain will go to the location specified in the message to respond. Nolan responded to the message, or. This is the Unsatsgrup response. Yes and no are both wrong answers. Replying with or is the correct answer. But among all the members of the H Rangers, only 3 members are currently in Los Angeles, and they are not performing urgent special tasks. The other members are performing tasks more than a few hundred kilometers away from here. Which member will use this method to communicate with him? What about contact? Nolan eliminated all the team members one by one, but failed to find any possible targets. He decided to visit the restaurant himself. And the message asked him to go by name. Nolan sat by the window and saw the woman walking towards the restaurant from a distance, Chengling, a Chinese actress with the same name as her dead captain. Is it an accident or a coincidence? Unexpectedly, she actually sat behind him and called him by his code name Sparrow. Why is she here? Could it be, she is really? No. Absolutely not. Nolan gritted his molars and recalled how he refuted Jichenjio at that time. By the way, this is what he said: the two of them are not even remotely similar. They can even be said to be completely opposite. Thalassophobia, climbing trees, how to tie ropes, height and shape, handwriting. Especially sea phobia and height and body shape, which cannot be faked. Nolan felt the wall squeezing around him slowly move away. Yes, the two of them have nothing to do with each other except for their names. She is not the captain. Or maybe, this is a trap. Amos and his bear nephew John had a big fight last night after returning from the White Club. The reason for the quarrel was because John mentioned the dead captain. This made Amos very angry. And John coveted everything in Amos, women, houses, cars, and the H-Rangers. But as the captain of the H-Rangers, I have always been at odds with John. John wished he had revealed some flaws and let Amos replace him. So, could this be John's conspiracy? Unfortunately, I won't be fooled. Nolan felt relaxed again when he thought of this. Although he couldn't think of how John found this actress at the moment, nor how John obtained the emergency contact information within the H-Rangers, Nolan at least got rid of the crazy idea that this woman is the captain. Nolan calmed down. So, he also replied in ventriloquism, "Long time no see?" "No, madam, I think you are mistaken. Is this the first time we meet?" Chen Ling didn't answer. Because the restaurant waiter came towards them with lemonade. After the waiter put down the lemonade and left, Chen Ling took out a handkerchief from her bag, pretended to wipe the corners of her mouth, covered her lips, imitated her own voice, and said in a sarcastic tone, "Aren't you yelling 300 times a day to defeat me? With this little ability? You can't even touch my heels." Nolan's newly restored mood was defeated again. This sentence refers to the time when he and the captain performed a secret mission. The mission location was the Brazilian Pantanal. Because of his carelessness, he got into a swamp. If it were an ordinary swamp, he could easily escape from danger. But not the Pantanal. It is the largest swamp in the world. The swamp is home to tens of thousands of piranhas and crocodiles, venomous reptiles, and fearless predators. The swamp was vast and soft. He struggled for several hours but still could not free himself from the swamp. The captain, sitting cross-legged on a nearby tree, chewed the fragrant dried meat and mocked himself. Nolan really had no choice. When he wanted to lower his head and ask for help from the captain, Chen Ling said this, "Don't you yell 300 times a day to defeat me. With this little ability? You can't even touch my heels." After saying this, Nolan gave up asking the captain for help. He lay dormant quietly in the swamp, keeping his balance and preventing his body from sinking. At the same time, he was looking for opportunities. When a crocodile saw Nolan and crawled towards him as an appetizer, Nolan seized the opportunity and used his belt to tie the crocodile's huge mouth. With the help of the crocodile's huge dragging force, he successfully escaped from the swamp. But what can this sentence prove? Maybe the captain had mentioned this to someone before. Yes, it must be like this. Nolan himself did not realize that although he was trying his best to refute, a little hopeful flame ignited in his heart. What was he hoping for? He did not dare to think about it. The soul travels through the 18th line. The female agent is killing crazy in the entertainment. Author, Bulletin Yehoyun Li. Chapter 588. While Nolan was thinking, Chen Ling called the waiter to take his order. The waiter bent over and confirmed with Chen Ling. Nolan listened silently. Her voice was completely different from the captain's. After confirming that the order was correct, the waiter straightened up and left. Nolan said in ventriloquism, "I don't understand what you are talking about." Chen Ling didn't expect that one sentence would make Nolan accept her identity. On the contrary, if one sentence could make Nolan accept her identity, it would prove that her training of Nolan was a failure. Chen Ling was well prepared. She took out her makeup mirror from her bag, and while fixing her makeup in front of the mirror, she said in ventriloquism, "On October 13, 2018 at 21:07, you knocked on my door. At that time, you came back from a mission in Switzerland and stuffed me a box of folding knives?" Nolan clenched his fists. He was sure that only he and the captain knew that he gave the folding knives. Moreover, the time was exactly right. "This was the only time I accepted a weapon from you. I didn't expect that it was this folding knife that made Mr. L reveal his acquaintance with me. This was also my mistake. I never thought that the world was so small. There were so many toys in the toy house, but John Killen chose the folding knife given by Nolan. The two met at the bar. Nolan helped John Killen out again and saw John Killen's folding knife. Chen Ling continued to recall, I remember that you were wearing a dark brown leather jacket with a dark blue pen in the right pocket. The leather jacket had 5 buttons. You were wearing a black t-shirt inside, with a belt with black buttonholes and dark blue jeans. You called this outfit the invincible suit for picking up girls. Nolan's face under the rubber human skin mask slowly lost its color. Chen Ling stuffed the makeup mirror back into her bag and threw out another explosive news. By the way, Alexei is still alive. She is by my side, safe and happy. I replaced her database. Nolan stood up suddenly from his seat. A captain exploded silently in his chest. The waiters in high-end restaurants will give guests enough privacy. But they will pay close attention to the guests' every move from a distance to avoid giving them an unpleasant experience. Seeing Nolan suddenly stand up from his seat, a waiter immediately trotted over. Sir, do you have any questions? Nolan touched his upper and lower pockets and said to the waiter apologetically, I forgot to bring my notebook. Do you have paper and pen for convenient recording? I just thought of something and I'm afraid I'll forget it. After that, he pointed to his head. Nolan pretended to be an old man, and the elderly are easy to forget things, which everyone understands. So the waiter smiled and said, yes, don't worry, I'll send it to you right away. Not long after, the waiter brought a brand new small notebook and pen, saying that it was for Nolan. Nolan thanked him, opened the notebook, pretended to write something in the notebook, and sorted out his thoughts at the same time. I could only hear Chen Ling's critical ventriloquy behind me. Your self-control is not strong enough, Nolan. Why, when I'm not on the team, do you relax your requirements for yourself? Nolan's pen stopped. It's been a long time since I was scolded by the captain. Damn, why are my eyes hot? Chen Ling looked at her watch and said in her usual tone of assigning tasks. Next, I have a few very important things to say. Please keep calm and don't make any unnecessary movements to attract the attention of the restaurant waiter. I don't have much time, there are only 23 minutes left, please don't interrupt me and write down everything I say carefully. First, I am your captain. 100%. As for how I became what I am now, it is a very long story. Now is not a good time. Believe me, I will find a suitable time to explain it to you clearly. Second, thank you very much for saving Ji Chenjiao. She is actually Mr. L's mother. So, please continue to believe in and support Mr. L unswervingly. Third, Mr. L, you know that he has now entered the Masons with the badge you gave him. However, there must be a reasonable explanation for the relationship between you. This is the main purpose of my coming today. The soul travels through the 18th line, the female agent is killing crazy in the entertainment. Author, Buletin Yehoyun Li. Chapter 589. Breaking news bombarded Nolan's brain one after another. The strange female star behind him is the captain. Alexei is still alive. Mr. L is actually Ji Chenjiao's son. No wonder he always feels familiar and friendly with Mr. L. She looks very familiar with Mr. L, so Mr. L also knows that she is the captain? What's the relationship between the two of them? Before Nolan could digest the explosive news, Chen Ling began to explain how to deal with the enemy's questioning. Nolan had no choice but to suppress his shock and confusion and concentrate all his attention on listening to Chen Ling's words. After talking for a while, the waiter brought Nolan's grilled fish platter first. The conversation between the two stopped for a while. Not long after, Chen Ling's steak was also served. And during this gap, Nolan finally took advantage of the opportunity to give himself some time to let his thoughts fly. This was truly the best time of his life. Maybe you only know how valuable it is when you really lose it. When the captain was around, he always wanted to compete with the captain, and often deliberately opposed her. He even felt that this woman was so annoying that standing in front of him was as insurmountable as a mountain. However, when her broken body was placed in front of him, he realized what he meant. He once made a promise to God, as long as the captain can come back, he is willing to pay any price, including life. Maybe God heard his prayer. The waiter walked away. Chen Ling was cutting the steak elegantly while giving Nolan instructions in a methodical manner using ventriloquism. Nolan immediately put his thoughts back and listened carefully. After finishing one steak, Chen Ling also finished explaining the matter. She paused for a while to make sure there were no omissions, and then added, "That's all. If there is an emergency, just respond accordingly." "Yes," Nolan said happily. Chen Ling picked up the dark red blackcurrant juice and took a sip. When assigning tasks in the past, Nolan always struggled with her and insisted on finding faults. Now that he was so obedient, she felt like something was missing. The waiter came forward to remove the finished steak plate and serve dessert. Nolan spoke cautiously, "Captain, can I ask a question?" "Please." Chen Ling changed his sitting position. Her face was looking out the window, looking like she was enjoying her dessert leisurely. Nolan asked, "Did Amos betray you?" "Yes," Chen Ling admitted simply. The fork in Nolan's hand silently deformed. He suppressed the anger in his heart and restored the fork with his fingers. Although he had already guessed this, now that the guess was confirmed, he could not wait to kill Amos now, immediately. However, Amos is the captain's prey. He would not touch the captain's prey. Nolan said softly, "He has been trying his best to avoid things related to you, by the way. Someone told me that Amos and John had a big fight last night, and it was said that it was because John mentioned you. Oh, you used to be." Amos' headache broke out again last night. "Amos, since you died, left, he has had frequent nightmares about you." Chen Ling intercepted his words, "I know about this. I just met Ji Chenjiao not long ago. And the someone you mentioned is Amos's personal doctor, Dr. Ken, right?" Nolan paused briefly. "So Ji Chenjiao also knows that she is the captain? Was he the last person to know that she was the captain?" "Yes, it's Dr. Ken." Chen Ling picked up a small silver spoon, cut off a corner of the chocolate mousse, and said, "You can reveal my identity to Dr. Ken. I trust him." "Great." Nolan breathed a sigh of relief. Dr. Ken is Nolan's close friend, and he is unwilling to hide this happy event from Ken. Amos's birthday is coming soon. I will give him a big gift on his birthday. Chen Ling swallowed the dessert in his mouth. "Big gift? What kind of gift?" Nolan was very curious. But Chen Ling didn't say anything. She reminded Nolan, "Don't forget, you are Amos's most loyal subordinate, and Dr. Ken is Amos's most trusted personal doctor. You must protect him with all your strength, and Dr. Ken must do your best to save his life. You must not let him die easily, his good days are still waiting for him." "Oh, God. This is his captain. A ruthless character who will exact revenge. Don't worry, Amos, I will let you live to taste the consequences of what you have sown." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The soul travels through the 18th line, the female agent is killing crazy in the entertainment. Author, Buletin Yehoyun Li. Chapter 590. The soft golden sunlight shone in from the window and fell warmly on the back of Nolan's neck. Melodious music was playing in the restaurant, and guests at a table in the distance laughed happily. The grilled fish platter we had today was delicious. The drinks are delicious too. It's so wonderful to be alive. Nolan couldn't believe that before today, he felt that he was hopeless. All these changes were due to the woman behind him, Chen Ling, his captain, who came to find him. Nolan sincerely hopes that time can last forever at this moment. Unexpectedly, Dr. Ken's words echoed in his mind, "Nolan, you coward. You have to cheer up. You have to take care of her team members for her. Nolan, come out. It doesn't matter if we can't get out, at least we are still alive. Hey, buddy, if the time machine research is successful, what would you most like to say to her when you go back in time?" Say what? It must be an expression of one's feelings. Now the opportunity came, but he backed down. He finally understood the plot that he had once been unable to understand. In a vulgar love story, the hero and heroine did not dare to express their love, which resulted in the two not getting together in the end. He felt fake. Love should not only be said loudly, but also done hard. Only a coward can't even say "I love you." However, when it was his turn, he realized that he was also a coward. True love means being timid, hesitant, shrinking, hesitating, and escaping. Nolan pinched the second joint of his index finger and cleared his throat. His vocal cords seemed to be blocked by clods of soil. "Captain." Nolan made a sound by inflating his belly and vibrating his vocal cords. Ventriloquism is not talking with the stomach. We usually speak by relying on the joint movement of the lips, teeth, and tongue to drive the vocal cords to vibrate and make sounds. However, ventriloquism means that when the lips are motionless, the abdominal cavity squeezes the air in it and hits the vocal cords, driving the vocal cords to vibrate, make noise. Chen Ling ate the dessert slowly and methodically. You. He was so nervous that he felt like he could hardly use his stomach to make his vocal cords vibrate. "Nolan, hurry up, the person accompanying me will enter the restaurant soon," Chen Ling urged. Through the window, she saw Mark, the waiter at White Club, walking in the distance. "He is waiting for the traffic light." "Captain, do you have a lover?" Nolan asked. "Yes," Chen Ling put down the small silver spoon. Nolan felt the clot of soil blocking his vocal cords disappear. "Who?" "Mr. L. He and I are not pretending to be a couple." "Mr. L. and the captain?" "Ah, the two of them really match each other. When I saw Mr. L for the first time, I was also attracted by his appearance." "So, the man I admire and the woman I like fall in love?" Complex and confusing emotions flashed through Nolan's heart. Lost. Relieved. Are you happy for them? Maybe a little bit of both. "You know, Captain, I've always liked you." Nolan didn't know why he said it so easily. "Oh, thank you for your like, bad little boy," here refers to immature little boy who will always tease the girl he likes, Chen Ling said naturally. "You can grow up now, welcome to the world of adults." Nolan laughed silently. He had long expected that he would be rejected by the captain. He just gave himself an explanation. Dr. Ken was right, he was the one who was trapped. Now, he walks out. The traffic light at the intersection turned green. "I'm leaving." Chen Ling saw Mark crossing the intersection. "Okay, adults," Nolan responded. Chen Ling smiled softly. She twirled the white napkin on the table, wiped the corners of her mouth, and raised her arms to snap her fingers at the waiter. The waiter came over with a smile. "I'll pay for it. This is my password-free card." Chen Ling put the black card in the waiter's hand and put a tip worth $100 into the waiter's hand. The waiter was satisfied and went to the cashier with the card. Taking advantage of the last chance, Chen Ling turned sideways to arrange the bag on the seat. Her hair hung down, blocking her lips. She gave up using slower ventriloquism and said quickly in a low voice, "Nolan, believe me, it will restore freedom to all the team members. When the wind of freedom blows at your feet, you are welcome to come and play with us in China." The captain gave him a promise. In the future, the members of the Rangers will be free. At that time, he will go to China to find the captain, Mr. L, Alexei, Jichenjiao, and others, and have barbecue, drink, play cards, and brag about the past together. Such a future is too beautiful and too dazzling to look directly at. "I'll contact you again." After saying that, Chen Ling stood up from his seat, straightened his clothes elegantly, picked up a small bag, stepped on stilettos, and walked swaying towards the door of the restaurant. The waiter in the aisle held Chen Ling's card and consumption bill in both hands. Chen Ling stuffed the card and bill into her bag, smiled at Mark who opened the door for him, and walked out. Mark followed. Nolan never looked back. He seemed to have heard the wind. The sound of the wind was far away, but loud. It was the free wind, the roaring sound. The soul travels through the 18th line, the female agent is killing crazy in the entertainment. Author, Bulletin Yehoyun Li. Chapter 591. Nolan sat at the dining table, staring blankly in the midday sun like a real old man. And a few dozen kilometers away from him, in a room in a building opposite the apartment where Nolan lived, there was a telescope that was always pointed at Nolan's room. The owner of the telescope was a white young man with a short haircut and a red face. The man had a cigarette in his mouth, and the smoke from the cigarette would smoke his eyes from time to time, and he would habitually blink. On the floor at his feet, countless cigarette butts were scattered in all directions. He held the cigarette in his mouth and yawned tiredly. The curtains in Nolan's bedroom were not drawn tightly, revealing a little gap. The observer peeked in through this gap. Buzz. The mobile phone in the observer's trouser pocket vibrated. The man muttered and cursed, took out the mobile phone from his pocket, temporarily left the telescope tube with his eyes, looked sideways, put it on his shoulder after the call was connected, and continued to stare at the opposite room. "What's the situation over there?" asked the person on the other end of the phone. The red-faced young man said, "Mr. Batty, after the target person came home from the clinic, he drank some wine, did some exercise, watched some TV, and ordered a pizza. After eating, he watched TV for a long time and fell asleep in the early morning. Now, he hasn't gotten up yet." The person on the other end of the phone was John Killen's driver, Batty. Batty's tone was obviously distrustful. "You didn't stare at the wrong person, did you? Or, could it be that a dummy was placed on the bed?" The red-faced young man who was questioned said somewhat unhappily, "The height, body shape, and appearance can all be confirmed to be the target person. In addition, the target person is not lying motionless. He occasionally gets up to go to the toilet, turns over in bed, drinks water, and occasionally picks up his mobile phone to check it once or twice." Batty flipped through the investigation documents in front of him with the smell of fresh ink, thinking, Amos is old and sick, and even the captain of the H-Rangers has become so casual. He urged, "Keep staring, if there are any questions." The other side suddenly interrupted Batty's words. "The target person has woken up and received a call." He sat up. "He should be getting ready to go out." "Going out? Is there something wrong with Amos again?" Batty turned his head and glanced at the long table next to him. There were 5 or 6 laptops on the table. He looked at one of them accurately. The computer screen displayed a dialogue software interface and updated a message. "Amos has woken up and asked Captain Nolan to pick up Dr. Ken for a home visit." Batty said to the phone, "Continue to follow the target person. Don't call me anymore. It's not convenient for me to answer. In addition, report the target person's itinerary to me in text form." "Okay." Batty hung up the phone. He was reading the report in front of him. Both reports are titled Chen Ling. The investigation report on the star Chen Ling is very clean and simple. The daughter of a small boss, who overestimated her own abilities and ran to the entertainment industry, has finally gained some popularity recently. So the family saw hope and spent money to send their daughter abroad to hug thighs. She is just a vain little person, not worth worrying about. On the contrary, another Chen Ling, the late H-Ranger captain, had a very impressive resume. Not only her. Her family was also very interesting. Chen Ling's surname was not Chen, but Zhou. Chen Ling's father, Zhou Suyan, was a PhD in computer science from Stanford University. He had a car accident before returning to China. This was a car accident planned by the Masons to prevent him from bringing advanced science and technology back to China. Chen Ling's mother was a real orphan, her biological parents were unknown, and she was an excellent acrobat. Zhou Suyan's parents flew to the United States to attend the funeral. When they arrived at their son's house, they were too sad and careless when cooking, causing a fire. Zhou's parents and wife all died in the fire. This was also the work of the Masons. But the baby girl was lucky enough to escape in the bathtub. The entire task was given to Amos. Amos was training the H-Rangers at the time, and he needed to find particularly outstanding children. The younger the better. The father is intelligent and the mother is physically fit. This baby girl is definitely a good candidate. So, he did not get rid of this lucky baby girl. Amos found a dead baby and threw it into the fire, and announced to the public that the whole family died in the fire. The newspaper only mentioned it briefly, but the local fire fund increased a lot. And the baby girl was quietly sent to an orphanage in California by him using his connections. The orphanage used a computer to select a Chinese name for her, Chen Ling. Amos agreed. After a few weeks, Amos pretended to go to the orphanage to select, and finally chose Chen Ling and adopted her home.